Hey, what's up, Insta? My wife told me I was supposed to call it Insta, not Insty or I don't know. So it's going to be more conversation style today. I want everybody to realize and understand that TWD no longer works. Why? Because of Facebook's glorious processes of saying we're giving out false information. Oddly enough, my false information comes from the Institute of Medicine, right? You know, because I read research articles and things like that. They say I give out false information on a regular basis, but yet you'll see constantly in the videos that I do, you will get links to the peer-reviewed research articles that I'm discussing. You get the original sources, the research studies. We'll be talking New England Journal of Medicine. The title of that one is Abolishing Mammography Screening Programs, a View from the Swiss Medical Board. You'll learn how in Switzerland, they basically called for the complete abolishment of mammography screenings. That may sound shocking to the vast majority of women out there, and men included, and people who have had loved ones diagnosed with breast cancer through mammography screening, and then ultimately go through treatments, and many may still be alive. And the credit is being given to mammography screening and that program and screening for cancer. The credit is being given, those lives still around, lives, and I'm going to quote, saved, is given to mammography screening. That program that actually is extremely harmful and does not lead to an overall benefit in the number of lives saved. It actually causes a significant number of women to develop breast cancer because of the radiation. So that's why here at I kind of want to say the Wellness Way Clarksville, it's the Wild Doc's office. Marathon Chiropractic still is our general name, but you can go through thewilddoc.com and request both consultations, or you could go ahead and email my staff or call our office at 931-591-2010. We're going to be having a guest screening, Joanna, who does thermography. She'll be here on October 28th, all day long doing thermography. Thermography is basically just like you see here, thermal cameras. Oddly enough, I've heard, and I have a question from somebody. We're going to start off with some of the questions that we've received over the last week. Somebody asked about their medical doctors, their oncologists, saying thermography doesn't have enough science behind it. It's fairly new. Actually, it's been around a really long time, and the science has gotten really, really specific, and it can actually detect cancers oftentimes in women with fibrocystic breasts and things like that. It can actually detect heat signatures that would indicate the possibility of a disease process such as breast cancer in women with very dense breasts. It can see it better. And thus, this woman was diagnosed with breast cancer shortly after visiting a museum where the thermal camera actually revealed a hot spot on one side of her body. And that's what thermal imaging does, is it looks for imbalances side to side, one breast versus the other, or just looking at one breast. Now they're even doing thermography. Several studies have been published here in actually 2020 showing that prone positioning, women laying in the prone position, letting their breasts hang through a little hole in the table, and then doing a thermal camera all the way around, can detect potential disease process. Thermal imaging is not the detection of breast cancer, and technically neither is mammogram. Mammograms look for abnormalities, tissue formation, tumors, hardened tissue, more dense tissue patterns in the breast tissue, and then it takes additional testing to then find a diagnosis and basically come to the diagnosis of breast cancer. So the beauty of thermography is it doesn't harm you. It can't cause cancer. It's not causing the disease that you wouldn't want to have. And that's why it's so critical for people to understand this stuff. So anyways, all that already said, for the fact that what you're going to need to do instead of TWD, it no longer works because we're getting censored by Facebook. So really, I need your help in spreading the truth. So you need to post the videos on your page. You need to share it. You need to tag friends, things like that. We no longer can communicate effectively through Facebook, and we're getting our spread and reach is substantially being suppressed right now. Again, because I read things like the Journal of American Medical Association. I read things like the New England Journal of Medicine, and I talk to people plainly about the facts and realities that organizations such as the National Institute of Medicine. Listen, this is a 2013, and this is really going to kind of center. We'll talk more about thermography a little bit. Tuesday, next Tuesday, the 13th at 3 p.m. Tag your friends, family, everybody. Get on here on Instagram and Facebook. And we're actually going to talk about thermography in more detail. We'll have Joanna here in the office with my wife, so you get it from a lady's perspective, and you'll get science and evidence supporting. So one of the questions were, can I get, do you have articles, research studies, things like that? So for this question, a lady that asked this question saying that she's frustrated because her oncologist does not want to offer thermography, says that it's, the oncologist basically said it's new and unproven. No, it's not. It's not new. It's not unproven. It's proven. And in fact, it's proven not to cause harm, like mammograms are proven to cause harm. In fact, the National Institute of Health actually, in multiple different peer-reviewed studies, have actually shown that more women develop breast cancer because of mammography screening than lives that are extended because of mammography screening. And again, I'm taking evidence directly from the National Institute of Health, the Institute of Medicine, places like that, and giving that to you. So that day, on Tuesday, you'll get more of that scientific research and articles for the benefits and proven benefits of thermography. And the benefits are really kind of need to be seen and taken in a way just like any testing needs to be. You need to know what you're going to do, and you need to be empowered by the test, not scared to death by the test. And I mean that sincerely, that if you're entering into an extremely scared that the test may come positive, and some people, ideally, if they knew they had something going on, they had a disease process, then that test could spur them on to making lifestyle changes and taking care of the factors and doing things that would extend their life and reduce their disease burden, would reverse their disease process. So there's benefits to that, but you need to realize that if even thermography, a non-harmful form of screening for potential disease process, and I say that very specifically because the reality is we don't test for cancer. Thermography doesn't test for cancer. It can lead you down a path that would go through biopsy or any other means, or blood work could be ran as well to rule in or rule out the potential or greater probability of cancer. You could go through additional testing to get a clear and concise idea whether you had cancer or not. It's a screening for imbalances in heat signatures from one breast to another when we're talking about breast cancer. But it can be used for thyroid, it can be used for back problems, it can be used for inflammatory cellulitis, it can be used for inflammation of joints and rheumatoid arthritis and things like that. If you know you have a thermal difference or a high heat signature in an area of your body, something is going on. Inflammation is likely going on, or there's vasculature. That means your blood vessels are changing, and that could indicate that there is a cancerous tumor beginning to develop, and that could actually come positive on thermography before you ever would be able, it could be years later before a mammogram would actually see a tumor, see a mass. But you need blood vessels to actually bring more blood flow into a specific spot, a specific region in your body for cancer to develop. Cancer is a highly metabolic disease process, meaning that it takes a ton of energy. And if it takes a ton of energy, you need a lot more blood flow to that type of tissue than you would normal healthy tissue. So you can see these heat differences, these vasculature changes way before you could find the actual tumor, because the vascular changes have to occur. You need you kind of like if you want to build a city, out in the middle of the desert somewhere, you need to build roads, vascular systems to bring in the raw materials to be able to build this big city. Well, that's the way it goes with your blood vessels. So you can see that. So there's extreme benefits to this, but yet you also, I want people to take away from this is that there are extremely huge harms in screening alone. And that's why we're going to go in a lot of detail here in this article here, Cancer Screening, Overdiagnosis, and Regulatory Capture. Actually, the Journal of American Medical Association in 2017, when they published this, they talked about how the people who make money have actually worked very, very effectively and efficiently to shut down government panels and government organizations that were actually going to do something good for people, but then people who are money hungry and don't care about your life, your mother's life, your grandmother's life, they don't care about you. They lobby to our Congress members and get our Congress members to basically suppress truthful information getting out to you. But sadly, I'm suppressed here on Facebook, bringing you actual truth and information that empowers you to have an understanding that hopefully will lead you down a path of knowledge and information that equips you to realize, should I even do a screening? Should I even do thermography? I want you to walk away from here and literally say to yourself, if you gain a really, really good understanding right here in this basic concept, thermography is not harmful, but screening can be harmful. And if I touch on that really quickly, and I do want to get to a couple things like commercial break, not commercial break, but again, October 13th, that would be next Tuesday at 3 p.m. My wife and Joanna, a member of the healthcare community, natural health community, is going to be doing screenings here. We're going to be talking about the benefits, the science behind thermography, and then we're going to be doing a full day of thermography for anybody who would like to go through that. So you can call our office for more information and cost of thermography if you actually want that service. But I'd actually say, hey, I need you to realize that screening can lead you down a path of fear and jumping to conclusions and jumping into situations and jumping into treatments that could be harmful to you. So you need to realize that. But if you do this, since TWD on Facebook no longer works and we're being censored so bad because I read scientific research, again, I always got to say that. Links, if you text links to 786-808-1302. Again, that's 786-808-1302. If you text that, you text links, then you'll be able to get the website that will bring you these links. And Ashley probably has some of that set up so far, the page, but the choices of science and studies like the Institute of Medicine 2013 review, that's not up on the page just yet. So I'll get all of this information and science out to you on links to it probably by Monday. Again, we're headed into the weekend. So, but here's what you need to know. Let's talk plainly. This is the Institute of Medicine. The title of it is Delivering, all right, here we go. Delivering High Quality Cancer Care, charting a new course for a system in crisis. What do they mean by that? They mean that the system of medicine, the medical community and the screening community that is kind of leading and driving the ship of cancer diagnosis and cancer treatment is actually in crisis. They talk about how the decade after the Institute of Medicine first studied the quality of cancer care, they found out that the committee concludes that the cancer care delivery system is in crisis. Care often is not patient-centered. Many patients do not receive palliative, that would be like more supportive, help you to feel better care, to manage their symptoms, and side effects from treatment. So there is scientific evidence that shows the use of things like dandelion root or milk thistle or turmeric can not only have direct anti-cancer effects, but also they can have what would be considered palliative care. And I think if you take care of your liver and you help your liver not succumb to the dangerous and damaging negative effects of chemotherapy, well then guess what? That's not just palliative care and helping you feel better and helping your liver not die off and to be damaged to the point where that ends up dying. You could actually help save your life. But the reality is they say that it can reduce the side effects of the chemotherapy using those types of herbs. But the problem is, like they're saying in this Institute of Medicine, here's what they go on. Side effects of treatment, the decisions about care often are not based on the latest scientific evidence. Let me give you an example of that. If I had to say and ask any of the viewers out there, and if you'd comment on Facebook or Instagram, let me know or message us with the answer. But this is a 2019 study showing that astragalus, one of my favorite herbs, for many different reasons, but that herb actually helps support your bone marrow's production of immune cells, immune stem cells, but it also helps in the differentiation of those immune cells into categories of CD8 T cells, CD4 cells, immunoglobulins, like it helps produce natural killer cells. So it's like a family tree. You got the aunts, uncles, nieces, and nephews, and the grandparents and everybody here. Well, it actually helps create all of those because it starts with Adam and Eve. Like this is helping to produce Adam and Eve with your immune system. I don't know why I thought that was a good analogy. Maybe it wasn't. Scratch that, reverse it. Yeah, anyways. Astragalus. But tell me this on Facebook or Instagram or on YouTube in the future when this is out there. Astragalus. The astragalus, this herb, it enhances M1 polarization, kind of scientific jargon, but the reality is it improves the function of your immune cells. Functional maturation, maturing of your dendritic cells and T cells, anti-cancer immune responses in patients with lung cancer. Lung cancer death rates have actually gone up. Lung cancer rates have gone up despite smoking going down. So the reality is this whole thing about like, if you wanted my honest 100%, like the way I see it when I reviewed the vast majority of the scientific research on this subject, we're seeing breast cancer death rates go down, but we're seeing lung cancer death rates go up because the reality is if you cut a woman's breast off prophylactically, preventing them from getting breast cancer, you're not removing the reasons why they would develop cancer in the first place, whether it be in the breast tissue or the lungs. So that being said, that's why we see lung cancer going up higher than any of the other rates. We actually see deadly cancers going up at higher rates. And these cancers that they're screening for, like breast cancer, these cancers that are actually less harmful, less deadly, or cancers like thyroid cancer, they're screening for cancers that basically give them a window of opportunity, and I'm literally saying this because of what this research study says specifically. It gives the medical community, not the scientific community, it gives the medical community, the profit-driven medical and pharmaceutical industry and screening industry, it gives them a window of opportunity to create this dynamic where when they detect a breast cancer, when they detect the thyroid cancer, these cancers actually could go into remission on their own. They could never harm the person in the first place. But then they send them through surgery and radiation and chemotherapy and all their treatments, and they make hundreds of thousands of dollars on these people that would have never actually succumbed to death from these cancers. They're harmless cancers in essence. Now, why cancer can be harmless is a different story than saying that having a harmless cancer is okay. So having a harmless cancer, there are harmless cancers. People need to realize this. There are harmless cancers that are not going to develop and take your life early. The cancer would not. But the environment within your body and the reasons why even a harmless cancer or tumor could develop are likely to lead to health risks in other regions, other issues, other health problems. Inflammation, cardiac problems, risks of diabetes, risks of stroke, things like that. The factors that drive the development of cardiac problems, strokes, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, all these things that take people's lives early, they all have similarities to the environment that's necessary for cancer to grow, whether it be a harmless cancer or a deadly cancer. But what the medical community does is they basically say, we want you to get on television, we want you to go out and walk the track and walk in circles for us and raise awareness and money so that we can pay for advertising on TV to get more women to go to mammography screening. We just want you to tell people how thankful you are that our screening saved your life. But actually, that woman, her money was stolen from her. Quality years have been taken off her life. Her life has likely been shortened. She's a higher risk of more deadly types of cancers now, like lung cancer. That's why lung cancer rates have gone up. And they're using her thankfulness in a system that harmed her. In her lack of understanding and knowledge in the truth about cancer, they're using her testimonial to pull on the heartstrings of other women to go in and get more mammograms, to go in and get their thyroid checked, their neck checked. Now back to my question. The Institute of Medicine saying that the latest scientific evidence is not being utilized by our oncologists today. That the cancer delivery system in America is not using the latest scientific evidence to help their patients combat cancer and prevent cancer and reduce the negative effects of their current, sometimes substantially, quite often, unscientific treatments like surgery and radiation and chemotherapy. For many cancers, women are getting those types of treatments for breast cancer when it's absolutely unnecessary. I've seen it get a little bit better in my practice. The women that I've helped who have been diagnosed with cancer, I've seen it help. I've seen some oncologists say, chemo doesn't work for this cancer, so we're not going to do it. And I'm like, 5 years ago, that wasn't happening. And again, this was 7 years ago in this report, but again, it's extremely slow in adoption because I still have had women who I have sat down with and I have said, here's some science on things like herbs that can help get your immune system back out where you'd want it to be to prevent metastatic disease and other cancers or immune-related or immune deficit-related type mortality risk, death risk from pneumonia and other things. And I've given them science, I've given them research, and then their oncologist gets furious with them and me because who's this chiropractor giving you this science and evidence and research? How dare he give you research that I probably should have known in the first place and been given you? How dare he step on my toes and try and help you more than what you should believe that I'm the god of oncology. I'm the god of cancer. I'm the oncologist in this town. No one else should be talking to a cancer patient except for me. Because if they talk to Dr. Dale, he's going to give them evidence that then makes me look bad because I never gave it to you in the first place. What do you mean he gave you the nutritional evidence and research and human trials and studies that show that you could quadruple your survival rate with triple negative breast cancer? That's the most deadly type of cancer, and there's only chemo and radiation, which really aren't too effective in extending the life of women. But that's what we do, and that's the only thing we do, and nutrition isn't going to help you. I've literally had patients tell me that's exactly, well, not exactly verbatim, but their oncologist told them that what I was telling them wasn't true. And then I'm like, can you take this research study to him and ask him about it? And then they take it, they give it to him. Oh, look at that. And then he never mentions another word about it. But that, again, is why the Institute of Medicine says our oncologists aren't using science. So how many of you out there, God forbid, and I pray that we do have some people on the show that are still living, that have beat lung cancer. But how many of you had your oncologist tell you that astragalus could enhance the maturing, development, and effectiveness of your immune system in killing off that cancer? See, they're not using the latest scientific evidence that this is what I do for patients. And I do it from a different perspective. Wellness Way, get a different perspective. Again, what I want to say is I don't diagnose cancer. We're not going to attempt to diagnose cancer with thermography. What I do, what our Wellness Way docs, I'm looking at my notes over here because I'm always making sure that I'm touching on things. Hey, links. If you text links to 786-808-1302, and I think they pinned it there as well. That's the way we'll be able to actually communicate with you, since it seems like they're not going to be able to censor us doing that, but Facebook is definitely censoring me for reading you research. So I get you and gather information. People come into my clinic and I help them. Why? And this is what the Wellness Way docs do across the US and actually across the world. There's several in other countries. What we do is we gather the information and actually streamline your knowledge, increase your knowledge, help you gather the information, the science that enhances your capability of gaining the knowledge you would need to improve your clinical outcomes, improve your quality of life, improve your likelihood of beating the cancer that they're treating. I'm not going to treat cancer. I'll never treat cancer, but I'll help you gather information about how your body's functioning, how your immune system is functioning. Gather information on things that science has shown you should be given an opportunity to utilize. And then you can choose to utilize it or not. But I believe you have the right and you deserve this. And sadly, people aren't being given this type of information. And so I would ask, do the oncologists in America really believe that patients deserve this? There are some, I guarantee, don't believe that. They don't care. They want you to be a return customer. They want you to believe that chemo, radiation, and surgery cures your cancers, when in actuality, they don't. By definition of the medical's junk, ridiculous definition of a 5-year survival, they say it cures cancer, but in reality, it doesn't remove the causes of cancer developing in the first place. So I'll give you another, Cancer is a Functional Repair Tissue, a really, really good article there. And really, I'll read it to you here real quick. And they talk about cancer genes. Genes that are seen in cancer cells are also seen in a cut on your arm. So the genes that are necessary for wound healing when you cut yourself or scrape your knee are genes that are turned on that are called oncogenic, cancer-causing genes. But those genes are necessary and need to be turned on by your nervous system, the chemical constituents that are released during a wound occurrence. You need those to heal. So actually, many tumors could be a sign of past healing and not actually being cancer, but could have the appearance of cancer cells, and then they treat you for something that your body actually was using to heal or was healing in a moment in time, but wouldn't need any chemotherapy, radiation, or having your breast cut off. But they do it to you anyways, and your body was actually in the process of healing. And then they say, yay, we beat your cancer, we saved your life. Go out and tell all your family and friends that we saved your life, when in actuality, they did nothing but harm you and increase your risk of dying much earlier. That is the truth. And it literally says this. That's why, again, the article that I would say, I think it's in my PDFs. I'll put it up on the screen real quick here. This concept right there. Cancer Screening Over Diagnosis Regulatory Capture. Great one, really, really good read. And again, I'll give you some highlights, but I'm going to go back to this. A cancer is a functional repair tissue. So cancers are functional repair tissue. If the wound is persistent due to physical, that could be radiation. Oh, what is mammograms? They're radiation. So they just admit radiation causes the tissue damage that can initiate and cause you to develop cancer. Electromagnetic fields, EMFs, your cell phone and others. Trauma particles, such as like asbestos and others. Chemicals, carcinogens, toxic chemicals, heavy metals, even estrogen-like hormonal imbalancing chemicals or hormones themselves can feed cancer. Not necessarily the true cause of cancer, but they can definitely cause it to develop more rapidly. Aging is not a risk factor for cancer. It's just if you have more time to damage your body and create more damage and wound, or be exposed to more chemicals, or be exposed to more mammograms, your risk of cancer goes up over time. The more exposure you have to the things that cause cancer. Aging, stop saying aging. Shoot, even the fact of these doctors saying that COVID-19 a risk factor for COVID-19 is age. No, it's not. Age is not the risk factor. The longer you're here on Earth, the more time you have to accumulate more risk factors. Age is not the risk factor. Unless you could say, well, doc, the age, you just said age, the longer you're around, the more likely you are to accumulate more risk factors. So then it is a risk factor because you were here longer. Okay, whatever. I guess I proved myself wrong. The reality is age in itself is not the risk factor. It's how you took care of your body over those years that leads to later in life having a higher risk because you accumulated more risk factors and you didn't take the necessary steps that I want to teach and love to teach people. You didn't do the proper testing to know whether you needed to take initiative and take responsibility for your health to do the things to reduce those risk factors or do away with the risk factors that you accumulated. If you accumulate a risk factor, why don't you do the things necessary to remove that risk factor? When you do that, you don't have to live in fear anymore. So it goes on. Aging, free radicals, inflammation, nutrient deficiencies, bacteria, viruses, stress, damage, and amplify the genes that activate cancer. Surrounding cells may lead to clinical cancer. Based on the commonalities between cancer and wound healing, they hypothesize, basically using science, they're saying, let's look at it in a different perspective. Malignancies are not passive, mutated, useless masses. Rather, they are functional tissues produced by gene activation to secrete growth factors in an effort to heal persistent wounds in the body. Based on this hypothesis and this understanding, current cancer treatments aimed at killing cancer cells only may be misguided. This is why one of the problems I see even in the natural functional medicine world, even the natural cancer world, the reality is many will be like, hey, turmeric is a really good herb. Really good herb. It has potent, direct anti-cancer effects. It's great. But is the reason you develop cancer the lack of turmeric in your body? Now, turmeric could be amazing to be utilizing in the meantime while you're seeking out in exactly what they say. So a logical extension of this is that cancer treatment focused on wound healing by limiting causes or correcting causes of persistent wounds provide repair cells, growth factors, substrates required by repair cells may yield more fruitful results, meaning more life extension, more higher quality life results than treatments focused on killing cancer cells alone. Standard therapies aimed at killing cancer cells should be limited to adjuvant status, limiting symptoms, or buying time. There's a time and place for surgery, possibly radiation. And yes, I'll say it, possibly chemotherapy at times. You could argue that. Now, is that something I personally would probably resort to? No. I probably wouldn't. Probably would never, ever do it. Okay? And I say that, and I hope to God I'd never have to be challenged with that decision. Or my family or kids never have to be challenged with the decision. Okay? But taking this understanding, trust me, I'm going to apply this knowledge, and I hope you can too, to actually help your family members, help your friends, help the people who have been through cancer, help the people that are going through cancer, help the people that if we can understand the causes of cancer, and we do, on many levels, we understand what is an environment within the body, what we can test for, what we can change, what we can alter, what we can improve, that limits the number of risk factors that allow for cancer to develop in the first place. So therapies, standard therapies, chemoradiation, those types of things should be limited to adjuvant status, limiting symptoms, or buying time for completion of wound healing. In essence, completing what the body's trying to do. Do what the body needs to do. Remove those chemical toxic exposures. Take care of your nutritional deficiencies. Take care of your immune system. Take care of your nervous system. Take care of your stress. If you do those things, you're actually going to have the best opportunity to live a longer life. Not just more years thinking that medicine beat your cancer for you. So, good stuff in that article. Institute of Medicine, I think I had one more statement. Their conclusions here were changes across. This is the Institute of Medicine 2013, okay, saying that the cancer care system is in crisis. All right, and if you want links like this, text links to 786-808-1302. The phone number there is at the bottom of Facebook, and we'll get it on YouTube and stuff like that, right? Instagram, they probably have to jump over, or they have to listen to what I just said, right? So Instagram, 786-808-1302, all right? So here's the Institute of Medicine saying, changes across the board urgently are needed to improve the quality of cancer care. All participants, the stakeholders, including cancer care teams, patients, their families, researchers, quality metric developers, and payers, people who pay for it. Sadly, payers don't want to pay for astragalus, though the science says it can increase and enhance your immune system's effectiveness against killing cancer on its own. But yet, let's study all these immunotherapies right now that a lot of are developed from herbs and mushrooms and things like that, and they steal from God's ideas, God's science, and God's knowledge, and what God created for us, and then they patent it and sell it for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah, that's what they do. So I have a real issue with the payers. The insurance companies, they don't pay for things that really will extend the life the most. So that needs urgent change, for sure. HHS, federal agencies, industry must reevaluate their current roles and responsibilities in cancer care and work together to develop a higher quality cancer care delivery system. By working towards this shared goal, the cancer care community can improve the quality of life and outcomes for people facing cancer diagnosis. And that is my goal. That is my goal over the next month. That's my goal as a Wellness Way doc, as a chiropractor, as a person. A man of God wanting to help people who are in crisis. And the cancer care system is in crisis, and it's not giving people who are in a crisis situation in their health and their life the best quality care, because they don't want to go in the route of giving people information that gives them knowledge and understanding of how their body's functioning, what's causing cancer, what could enhance or remove or lower the risk of the side effects of the treatments they're giving. They don't even want to address the chemotherapy side effects sometimes. They don't want to talk about them. They want to downplay them so that people don't get scared of the chemotherapy, because that's what they have to sell and get off their shelves. And they're not doing things that people deserve. People deserve that. I know I said I was going to do the questions usually or first, but I think I'm answering most of the questions. I already took her the one where the oncologist is saying thermography is not effective, but yet thermography is not effective. But yet a woman found out she had breast cancer because of a thermal camera at a museum. It's that effective. You don't even have to be seen by a doctor for thermography to pick up the appropriate imbalances in thermal heat signatures that could mean disease process. Another individual out there, and if you comment with questions, sometimes I'll get to them on the lives, but sometimes I'm going to answer them the next time we go live. So I had a spot that was... they wanted to watch it. It wasn't cancer. I always love that. Not love it. I hate it. Like, honestly, it's the most ridiculous thing that doctors do. You have a spot we want to watch. You have fibrous cystic breast, so we need to go ahead and, I'm not going to tell you about the treatments with turmeric and EGCGs from green tea that can help you actually reduce the fibrocystic development in your breasts, and you can feel better, and you won't get mad at your husband when he wants to touch your breasts because they're tender and sore if you drank more green tea and took EGCG extract. Yeah, husbands, if you're upset that your wife won't let you, so buy Wellness Ways EGCGs if she has fibrocystic breasts and doesn't want you to touch them because they're tender and sore. All right? But don't put that in her stocking at Christmas and be like, I really want you. Bad gift. Just give it to her out of the loving heart and spirit you have so that she can feel better. She'll thank you for it. And yeah. I don't know why I went down that rabbit hole. I just did. Squirrel. It's applicable, okay? But they want to check these spots, and they want a radiation, and that's the problem. Here's what I hate. doctors, oncologists, and mammogram specialists, radiologists, they want to radiate you year after year after year, or actually every 6 months in this lady's situation. Every 6 months, your cancer risk is going up every time they do that. So they are literally, let's monitor it more frequently. Let's increase, let's add to the risk factors. Let's massively radiate your breast every 6 months so that you'll develop cancer. And then once 6 years down the road, after we caught this non-harmful, non-cancerous, never going to develop cancer unless you radiate it over and over again, area your breast tissue, they're like, see, aren't you thankful we gave you cancer? Well, they're not going to tell you they gave you cancer. They're just going to sit there and say, aren't you glad that we went ahead and did mammograms every 6 months? Had we not done that, had you not listened to us, yeah, you wouldn't have got cancer in the first place, but we're going to sit here and pretend like we found cancer early and it wasn't us that caused it, and then you're going to thank us. And sadly, that's what's happening. And I know I'm being joking about an issue that is not very funny. But it's ridiculous what these people are doing. They're not telling you this information. They're not. I mean, let me pull something up here so that I can just prove what I just said. Possible net harms of breast cancer screening, updated modeling of Forest report. So Nielsen's 10 women who had unnecessary surgery. So they took 10 women who had harmless cancers. So their paperwork, their blood, their lab, so they're like basically like, they had cancers that we didn't need to surgically remove. They had cancers that we didn't need to actually do any treatment for. They asked all 10 women, hey, did you feel the surgery was necessary? All of them believed it was. This had been dubbed the paradox of overtreatment. Overdiagnosis and overtreatment create paradoxical popularity because each individual justifies their experience by believing they have had a dramatic benefit. The more people they overtreat or treat, steal money from, harm, maim, butcher, burn, poison, that's what they're doing. That's what overtreatment entails. The more people they do that to, they overtreat, the more people think screening saved their lives. And thus, the popularity contest increases. The popularity of screening increases. The popularity of cutting, poisoning, burning, stealing from families and women. The people who commit those crimes become more popular because they committed a crime against somebody, because they didn't tell them the truth. Folks, that is, I'm reading it to you. It's the British Medical Journal, 2011. If you got a problem with what I just said, and Facebook, if you want to fact check me, go ahead, give a comment and peer review against this British Medical Journal article. Go ahead and do that. Stop giving me 2 strikes because I give false information when I read research to you. Yeah, I got an issue with Facebook right now. That's why I need you to share it. Only you can prevent censoring. Maybe that'll be my new slogan. We'll do something like Yogi the Bear. Let's put together a meme. Only you can prevent censoring. Share this Facebook post wide and far. All right. So, I'm so glad you're talking about this. I had my first thermography scan done last year and was wondering if mammogram is also needed. I lost, so if you think it's also needed, please, 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 like ultrasound, MRI, other forms of testing that have less harms. You can't really say now with evidence accumulating that ultrasounds are not harmful. They may not be cancer related, but there is evidence of harm to the developing baby in a mother's womb. So I'm just going to mention that. MRIs, there's mixed science out on it, but it would definitely be less harm from what I see in the science than a mammogram. But again, this question right here, Abolishing Mammography Screening Programs, a view from the Swiss Medical Board. And here's what they say. They say that they would be in favor of mammograms. Mammography screening, if these beliefs were valid, the beliefs that it saved lives. Unfortunately, they are not. The beliefs that mammograms save lives are not correct. This is a Swiss medical board, Switzerland's top scientists. Unfortunately, they are not, and we believe that women need to be told so. Oh, they do? They believe women need to be told so. But I have already spoken with women who have not been given this information, who have not been told that mammograms don't save lives. They do detect cancer, but they don't save lives. I know that can be extremely difficult to understand, but please, please, please read this incomplete before you would think that mammogram is also needed on top of thermography. I lost my, and this is why, and this is sad. This is what breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. One, someone lost their life to cancer, or maybe the mother lost their life to the cancer care industry that, again, that the Institute of Medicine says is not using the latest science. I lost my 60-year-old mother at 60 years old 5 years ago. I was like 60 and then 5. 5 years ago to breast cancer. I am 36 and terrified of getting it. Well, there are things. Let me do this real quick for you for this question. Let me do this. Not that one. Nope, here. So I want to show you. This was one of my dear, dear friends, Dr. Greg. Greg Abbott of the Wellness Way. He was training other doctors. And how ironic, the first Tuesday in October, the Wellness Way doctors are being trained by one of our top doctors on cancer testing. And folks, it's not just some random cancer testing that we're using. All right, there's CEA 15-3, CA 2729, there's CA 19.9, and these are tumor markers. Now, like a CA 125 can be more specific to ovarian cancer, a CA 2729 can be more specific to breast cancer. There's also CEA markers, that's cancer embryonic antigens. All right, carcinogenic embryonic antigen. If you look at those, we can test all those things. But I will say this, watch this. Those are ways in which you could run those numbers if you feel you want to know, is there an environment that allows for tumor growth? These are tumor markers. See, what you'll find is doctors don't use, this comes from WebMD, doctors don't always see obvious signs of cancer growth after diagnosis. So they use these tests after diagnosis, but doctors don't use CEA tests to make first-time diagnosis of cancer. So they wouldn't use it like the way I'm saying. They can be, but listen to this. Listen to the mindset here. This test isn't an accurate way to screen for it because many other diseases, and I'm going to emphasize that, many other diseases can cause the levels of this protein to rise. So when you take this one cancer marker, CEA, they say doctors don't oftentimes use this as a screening test. It would be a lot less expensive than mammograms every single year. You could do like 10 CEAs for the cost of a mammogram. Probably actually 20, I think. So listen to this. The test isn't an accurate way to screen for cancer, it is cancer, because many other diseases, here's their mindset. They want to diagnose you with cancer and that's it. They don't want to tell you that you have disease processes going on in your body that could lead to cancer. So instead of screening for the potential for diseases, their goal is not health. It's not health. This proves it right here. They're saying doctors don't use this screening method to tell patients that their body is in a state of disease. which then could lead to cancer. So instead, they use a non-beneficial mammography screening to tell people when they have full-blown cancer, instead of doing tests that could tell them that their body's in a state of disease which could lead to cancer, way before their mammograms could detect cancer. See, you could actually have a CEA, but you could do all the tests in the world, and it could be elevated because of tumor growth, because of cancerous growth. But mammograms, ultrasounds, thermography, any other, they could biopsy, they could MRI, they could do all these things. But they could say, we can't find a single tumor in your body, but your CEA is elevated. It means there's a disease process going on in the body. That's what it means. But they say it's not accurate to cancer, therefore we don't use it to screen for cancer. But if their goal is health, keeping people healthy, why don't they just use the CEA marker to say, hey, if it's elevated, it means something's going on. But I will tell you this. I ran this on one of my patients who's dealing with breast cancer and metastatic. Guess what? Her CEA wasn't elevated at all. It was within the normal ranges. And they also say CEA could be elevated in people who smoke. Oh, because they have a disease process going on in their body? And they should probably quit smoking. But they don't screen it, and they don't pay attention to an elevated carcinogenic embryonic antigen going up. But what if we used it in smokers and said, hey, yeah, it's a little elevated. Oh my gosh, it jumped by 10 points. Oh my gosh, the next year it jumped by 50. You probably have cancer going and growing in your body. Or you have accelerating disease process going on in your body. There's an application to it, but there's an understanding that doctors don't want to break down for patients, or they don't want to use it to tell people way before they could run them through the mill with a mammogram. You see my issue with the healthcare system? Do you see my issue? We need to pay attention. The Institute of Medicine is saying the system is in crisis. The cancer system is in crisis. We're not even getting to the article I wanted to discuss. But I gave you the link so you can read it yourself, and I highly recommend it, because that's the reality. You can use the information. I don't have to read it to you. Story time. So you can bring down fear, you can utilize testing, we can help you. Like that's like, I would just, like this question, I beg you to let me help you. Because I believe that I can deliver to you information that can help bring down. I would be willing to go through a consultation and talk with you for whatever amount of time you would want. And let's discuss what kind of cancer your grandmother, your mother had. Let's talk about the treatments they utilized. Let's talk about how it was detected. Let's talk about the potentials, like it is saying here and all these studies that I can provide to you, that a lot of women are succumbing and dying with a cancer diagnosis, but not dying of cancer, but in fact dying of the treatments, dying from the treatments, from medical physicians, from money-hungry industry that doesn't give you the truth. That's what's going on. We can run all these markers. The Wellness Way can use this. You can literally go to any lab test now pretty much and run these markers on your own. But I will tell you this. Listen to me on this. So I'm going to go to the cancer screening overdiagnosis regulatory capture. Really good thoughts in this article. And one other question happened was, where can we get tested properly? This individual was asking about proper testing for stool sampling, gut dysbiosis testing, gut health testing, where they could go. And that would be thewellnessway.com, find the local Wellness Way doc, or give my office a call. You can go through thewilddoc.com. You can contact my office, 931-591-2010. That's how I make my money to provide you with this information, is by helping people directly. And I look forward to helping you. All right, we can do all that testing. They were asking about specifically the last 2 weeks I went over the thyroid gut axis and how thyroid conditions, Hashimoto's, autoimmune thyroiditis, low thyroid, or even Graves' disease and hyperthyroidism could all stem from gut health. And it's a 2020 June peer-reviewed research study, article, about how the gut is so important in thyroid health. And where do you get that proper testing? You get it through the Wellness Way. You get it through the Wild Doc, all right? And we guide you in accumulating and gathering information to enhance your understanding of the way your body functions and heals, and then pointing you in the direction of things that are scientifically proven to enable your body to function and heal better, or remove the underlying factors and causes that lead to disease process development, whether it be cancer, diabetes, all these things. We look at the factors and we treat you, the person, not a diagnosis. We don't treat cancer, because who cares about cancer? We need to care about people. October is going to be all about, let's find cancer, let's diagnose cancer, let's screen as many women as we possibly can. They care about finding people with cancer to run them through the mill. That's what mammograms are all about. And if you don't believe me, why did the Swiss medical group decide they should abolish mammography screening? Listen to this. Even the CEAs, even running these markers on your own, even doing thermography. So I'm going back to what I said to the beginning. You need to understand, there's so much you would really need to understand why I would say this. Like testing of any type can be harmful. It can put you in a state of fear. It can lead you into a medical world that's going to take advantage of you and treating you for cancers that aren't necessary to be treated. They might cut your thyroid out. They might cut your breasts off. Even if you did something that's harmless, like thermography. So you see, I'm almost like saying, hey, don't just run out and do this. It's a better method if you feel you need the testing, and there's benefits to testing if you have the knowledge base, if you have coaches, if you have a circle of influence around you that's going to help guide you in the right direction, that if that test comes back positive, understanding it may not mean cancer, understanding it may mean other things, understanding there is time to work on the things that lead to the disease development. And sometimes there's a need for further testing to know how serious is the situation and how aggressive do you need to modify your life and do the things to help your body heal. So you have to weigh that. You have to realize that. But here's what they say in some of the points. So screening, overdiagnosis, regulatory capture, they talk about the U.S. Preventive Service Task Force recommends against thyroid cancer screening, because it results in harm. Research from around World War II actually discovered that around 17% of non-toxic thyroid nodules, there's thyroid nodules are extremely common, harbored thyroid cancer. So at that time, those surgical therapy specialists urgently said, we need to just cut everybody's thyroid out. We just need to cut this out. We need to be like mammograms. Back in World War II, they're extremely aggressive. They're getting less aggressive now, actually learning that they shouldn't be cutting the opposite breast off. They should be doing lumpectomies at most, and even then, the less surgery they do, the better off the outcomes are typically. So when you look at this, they were just like, hey, let's cut them out. Let's cut the thyroid out. We need to do it. Thyroid nodule, cut it out just like you would for a breast lump, and you would do it. Now, when we look at the pathologist in 1947, he argued that the ultimate criterion for diagnosis of cancer is that the disease naturally results in death of the patient harboring it. That's a great statement. He went on to emphasize that thyroid cancer was an extremely rare cause of death, and that even with thyroid cancer, cutting the thyroid out doesn't extend the life. Burning it, giving radioactive iodine, doesn't extend the patient's life, doesn't cure their cancer. And in fact, cancer mortality rates with more screening have not changed in terms of thyroid cancer. Have not. They are treating thousands of women every year for a cancer that would never harm them. And they are creating that popularity, that image of the medical community to be life-saving. In this regards, they're not. They're harming. They're stealing. They're lying. They found that 36% of papillary thyroid cancer, the majority of which were very small. When they did a Finnish study, this is in Finland, they evaluated the population. They said that 36% of those that went through autopsy studies, not for thyroid cancer, but 36% of just doing autopsies and sectioning out the thyroid. In the general population, 36% had thyroid cancer. Given the number of small cancers, and these be people in car accidents, these be people who die of heart disease, these be people dying of stroke, these people dying of infections. So it wasn't like they died of thyroid cancer and they tested, no. Or they died of something that could be related to their thyroid cancer, no. Given the number of small cancers they found, the number that they reasoned they missed, the researchers actually deduced that virtually everybody would have some evidence of thyroid cancer if examined carefully enough, thus giving them a bottomless reservoir. This is their words. Bottomless reservoir of patients they could treat for thyroid cancer. That's a bottomless reservoir of profits. Because when the vast majority of the population doesn't have this type of understanding that there are a whole lot of people being treated for breast cancer, thyroid cancer, all types of cancers, prostate cancer, that don't need treated medically at all in terms of their cancer. Because their cancer isn't going to be what leads to their death. But again, if cancer can develop in the body, because they say another thing here that I think can give people understanding. So marketing. So marketing for this test. Then about a decade ago, a public service announcement appeared encouraging people to have their physicians check their neck, quote, check their neck. I remember this on TV. The Light of Life Foundation, the false light, this is what we should call it, the false light of Life Foundation, the deceptive light. Do you know that luciferase or luciferus or Lucifer means light? The Luciferian Light Foundation, that's what we should, they're now called technically the Luciferian Light Foundation, funded a campaign, testimonies of patients describing their positive health behaviors on the day before they were diagnosed with thyroid cancer. The ads use compelling language. Thyroid cancer doesn't care about how healthy you are. Morons, just gonna say it plain and simple, they're morons. These people are liars. They're deceived maybe. Maybe they're not worshiping the devil. They're oftentimes deceived. That's what's really sad. I mean, I'm being really hard on these people, I guarantee it, or this organization. But what breaks my heart is the devil is deceiving so many people right now, taking good-hearted people and using people who mean to do good. They're using those people to deceive others into undergoing treatments that are completely unnecessary and extremely harmful. The people that walked, raised money, did the testimonials, they weren't like all conspiring together being like, hey, let's lie to the populations. There's an endless reservoir of people with thyroid cancer, so let's go ahead and let's make sure that they go get their necks checked so that we can profit off of them. No, that's not what they're doing. But the spirit of the devil is behind it. Because if they're not being given the truth and they're lying and deceiving people, that's the spirit of the devil. Sorry. And the reality is, you can't be healthy if cancer is there. They want to say, you could be perfectly healthy and have cancer. You could appear perfectly healthy, feel good, have no real pain or symptoms, and cancer could be developing in your body. That's absolutely true. But that doesn't mean you're healthy. We have to define health. We have to get rid of this idea that health is just how I feel. I believe that I'm healthy because I'm doing the things that science shows, that life shows, enable me to be healthy. But if I was feeling the same way I'm feeling right now and eating McDonald's every single day, smoking a pack of cigarettes, doing nothing to take care of my physical body, my structure of my spine, my mindset, all these things, if I didn't do any of that, but I felt fine, there's no reason I should believe that I'm not going to get cancer. See, they prey on people, and they twist people's understanding of what's healthy and what's not, and when is somebody healthy and when's not. It's so sad. They wanted to say that if you feel good, you are about to die. That's literally what their marketing plan was. Let's make sure that people who feel good think they're about ready to die. That was their marketing plan. They go through corporate sponsors. It's just a really, really good article. The epidemic fueled, and again, this is the problem. And I'm going to go back to probably one of the most controversial issues that I'm discussing here today, is that screening leads women and men, prostate cancer, thyroid cancer, mammograms. This is the big three where this is being used. What it does is it leads people into testing that doesn't care whether it's a cancer that would take your life or not. No, actually, they prey on the people that have tumors that aren't going to be aggressive enough to shorten a person's life. The reasons the tumor's there could shorten a person's life, but getting rid of the tumor does not extend a person's life. You need to understand that fact right there. Everybody does. People who've been through this need to understand this, because the popularity of these screenings is enhanced and increased because of the false belief that the screening saved their life, when in actuality the screening did nothing more than send them into a system that took advantage of them and harmed them and actually shortened their life. But they praised the system because they cut their breast off, or they gave them chemotherapy and radiation and they cut the tumor out, and then they say, you're cancer-free. But nothing the medical community did helped the person. It harmed the person. But since the person doesn't know any better, doesn't know this information, their oncologists don't give them, trust me, I have never come across any of the individuals that I have worked with who have gone through thyroid cancer treatment have ever been given this article. None. And I've even given this article to women and husbands in the community, given them this, and then they still go through with the oncologist recommendations for papillary thyroid cancer, having their thyroid removed, despite it saying it's not a cancer that needs treated. Because all the oncologist has to say once somebody knows that they have cancer, even if the science says it's not a cancer that's deadly, all the oncologist had to say was, well, I think it'd just be better just to not have cancer in your body. And for most people, they're like, yeah, I think that would be good. It sounds good. But it's based on a theory that cancer is something that's attacking you, when in actuality, cancer is something your body is creating. And it's creating it when you're stressed, when you're spine. And people are going to sit there and say, Doc, how are you saying you're a chiropractor? How are you saying that your spine's involved in that? Altered heart rate variability due to spinal traumas. I can show you animal studies from the 1970s where they did a sympathectomy. Ectomy is removing the sympathetic nervous system or downregulating the sympathetic control of your immune response. And previously, tumor-resistant tissues in animals became receptive to grafts of tumors, and all they were doing is deadening the nerve transmission to regions of the animal's body. They're not doing anything about the stress. They're not doing anything about the immune dysfunction or weakness. They're not doing anything about the toxic overload. They're not doing anything about the hormonal imbalances driven by the liver dysfunction. They're not doing anything about the gut imbalances and gut dysbiosis or the bacterial infections or parasitic infections in the GI that can lead to immune dysfunction or further inflammatory responses that create and harbor the environment that create the environment that harbors the opportunity for cancer to develop. That's what needs to be addressed. And they're not doing that. And they leave the person feeling like the doctor saved their life and the patient runs around town, does these walks, wears these ribbons, toting, screening saved my life. I'm a cancer survivor. And listen, I understand. I'm not saying that the people that have gone through this weren't brave, aren't trying to be heroic, aren't trying to help other people. But those factors I just mentioned is why this harmful system is so effective. Because everybody's heart breaks for the woman who loses all her hair because she had chemotherapy for her cancer treatment. It's a really bad, simply put, it's a really bad situation our nation is in right now when it comes to cancer. And again, the Institute of Medicine admits it. They're in a really, really bad situation. The cancer system is in crisis. Doctors aren't using latest research and science. They're not giving patients the truth. I think I'm going to have to wrap this up for today. There was one... Yeah, I'm not going to go into that today. But there was one other thing I thought... Because this is it. I mean, here will be my last thoughts. But I hope you guys take this information. You again understand that we're getting massively censored despite me reading research all day long. If you text links to 786-808-1302, that's where you get the opportunity to be alerted when we go live in the future. When we do more of these formal, we're going live every Friday at 12. That's my goal, is every Friday at noon, Central Standard Time, we'll be going live. I love it when people jump on the lives and ask questions and things like that. Sometimes I get to field those live questions on the live show. A lot of times I'm going to have to field them the next one, and we're going to be going. And a lot of people I've been just messaging back and giving them a direction to head into, something to read, a test that they need to get done, or I would get done in their situation. So I help people in that manner. Again, if you need to reach out to us personally and directly, you can go through thewilddoc.com if you're interested in any type of testing or anything like that. We'd love to be here to help you. So thewilddoc.com, you can request a consultation, you can ask a question there, you can comment the questions on Facebook, YouTube, and others. My staff gather those questions together, and we answer them either on live shows or return an answer to you directly as often as we possibly can. This comes from the Journal of American Medical Decision, 2013, Overdiagnosis and Overtreatment in Cancer, an Opportunity for Improvement. There are opportunities. All this information I just talked about gives us opportunities for improvement. And here's the reality, and I completely agree with this consensus, like this statement. They say that for over 30 years, awareness and screening have led to emphasis on early diagnosis of cancer. And they say that although the goals of these efforts were to reduce the rate of late-stage disease and decrease cancer mortality, they're being very nice. See, the ignorance in ignoring this, all this information that I'm sharing with you, and tons of other studies. The ignoring of that information, the not telling women the truth, not informing women who are creating that popularity of mammograms being beneficial and life-saving. The fact that they don't address that issue and address it hard and now, or not even now, way back when. I mean, the New England Journal of Medicine and Swiss Medical Group, this was 2014 that they said we should abolish mammography screening. Why haven't we abolished it? Because there's too much money in it. Realize that. That's why it talks about the governmental bodies that were going to shut down and stop doctors from taking advantage of women with thyroid cancer. Women get diagnosis way more frequently than men. Men can too. But the government committees that were going to alert the public and alert people not to go through, check your neck, and listen to the Luciferian Life Foundation, they lobby to our government officials, and your officials that are supposed to be representing you. Oh, give me money for my campaign next time, and I'll make sure that this government committee allows more and more people to be deceived into cancer treatments they never would have needed. So I disagree, but yeah, let's say it nicely. Although the goals of these efforts were to reduce the rate of late-stage disease and decrease cancer mortality, the trends and clinical trials suggest that the science, simplify it, science suggests that these goals have not been met. National data demonstrates significant increases in early-stage disease without proportional declines in late-stage disease. Because again, in science I'll go through maybe next week. I'll probably start with that. I'll try and start with next week. The science has shown when comparing unscreened areas and screened areas and doing a clinical trial or a research-based trial looking at detecting cancer, they say that oftentimes it's upwards of 25% or more of breast tumors will go into regression on their own. So that means that roughly 25% of women saying mammograms save their lives, in which actually the reality is it's way more than that percentage-wise, but with this one study, at least 25% of the women walking around saying mammograms saved their lives are saying mammograms saved their lives because they got put through a rigmarole through the medical community for treatments that they never needed in the first place because their tumors were going to regress on their own. On their own. Without any medical intervention whatsoever, they would regress on their own. No natural intervention on their own would regress on their own. And I have patients that I've literally said this to. I have a patient that I have multiple amazing conversations with. And I don't take away from the things she changed in her life that may have led to the regression of that cancer. The nutritional regimens she changed, the detoxing she went through, the exercise regimens she initiated, the de-stressing she did, the prayer she did. I don't downplay the reality that the chiropractic care. I downplay my own chiropractic care. Even though better alignment of your spine reduces stress in the system and allows your nervous system to function better and communicate better, and could be that which tips the scales in the right direction to allow cancer to go into regression and remission on its own through your body's healing abilities. I majorly downplay that. And I tell her, listen, despite doing all of that, it could have been all of that. It could have been one of those things. It could have been none of those things, and it would have gone into regression, and you would have had those mammograms that came positive, and then go back for tests months later after changing your life, after getting chiropractic care, after eating healthy, after taking herbs, and guess what? The cancer's gone. You could have been the 25% of the population that would have happened without you even knowing it in the ever changing anything. But at least I'm honest. That's the way I can sleep at night. I'm honest with my patients. I give them the science and information. I help them gain understanding, gather the resources, evidence, science that enables them to have a better understanding of their circumstances, their situation, and can lead them into a better quality of health, less stress and fear. The woman I pray who asked us the question, which we've reached out to directly, I pray she becomes a patient of mine, someone that will help me. And a patient of mine, or maybe a client of mine, or maybe just a friend of mine, somebody who I can help bring down that level of fear, because the fear she's under is actually something that is a risk factor for the development of cancer and later in her life. Why don't we remove the fear by enhancing the understanding and knowledge? Let knowledge of this condition, let knowledge of the factors that lead to it, lead to a releasing and removing of the fear. Give them power. But that's not what the medical community, they just want to say, you need us, only us, come to us, we'll screen you, we'll treat you, then we'll send you on your way, and then you'll promote us for doing nothing for you. That's really what's happening. National data demonstrates significant decreases, or insignificant, non-significant decreases in late-stage disease, deathly cancers. The word cancer often invokes a specter of inexorably lethal process. That's what cancer people think when they hear cancer. However, cancers are heterogeneous, meaning different, can follow multiple paths, not all of which progress to metastasis and death. People think when they have cancer, if they do nothing, it leads to death. And that's why it's such a profit-driven system, because all they have to do is say, you have cancer. And they may be actually telling you the truth in that statement that you have cancer, but they're not telling women with papillary thyroid cancer it's not a cancer that causes you to die early. And include indolent disease, indolent meaning non-harmful, non-deadly, that causes no harm during a patient's lifetime. That's what people need to realize and understand. And just like that, should be able to at least bring down the stress of having a diagnosis of cancer just a little bit. And that lowering stress increases their likelihood of living longer. So I know this is not a popular discussion or topic. I know that dealing with and discussing the issue of corruption in the cancer and medical industry is not popular in the vast majority of people. Sadly, telling the truth oftentimes isn't. But I don't know why. God's told me I need to do it, so I'm going to continue doing it. And I guess I don't care how many haters in my community I get, because I've had some haters here recently. I'm getting censored by Facebook. That's why you got to text links to 786-808-1302 so that only you can prevent censorship on Facebook. But I've had some haters here recently talking about how I'm saying, like, I can adjust gun, stomach cancer. I never said that. I mean, it's technically, you could say, I mean, we don't have science and technology to be able to say that, yes, that's the one thing that'll tip your scales or did tip your scales in the right direction to allow you to beat the cancer. And again, when you look and study the immune system and spontaneous regression, they say it is a fact that people can beat their own cancers. A fact that the immune system has a major role in that. It is a fact that the function of the nervous system has a major play in whether cancer goes deadly or not. And it is a fact that chiropractic can enhance and improve the function of your nervous system. It is a fact that science shows immunological benefits to reducing stress in your life, whether it be physical or mental. It is a fact that nutrition and deficiencies alter the function of your immune system that could lead to cancer. So it is a fact that anything that we say that enhances the benefit of the body to function better could be the one thing, or the 2%, or the 5%, or the 10, 20, 30, whatever. It could benefit that person to that percentage and lead to a regression of cancer. It could be those things because the science says it could. So why don't we just talk about it openly and have a discussion? There's no way in this world I would ever want to lead somebody to believe that, hey, come in, you got cancer, don't do anything else, just get adjusted. That would be ridiculous. Anybody who says that, if a chiropractor ever says that, don't go to them. Because that's not all you need. Because that's not complete healing, that's not complete health. That may be a very, very minute to almost non-existent need for your system of your body to beat cancer, and it may be a massive need for your body and your system. But you know what? If I was in that person's shoes, if I was dealing with cancer, I would do everything I possibly could to enhance the function of my body, and that's what people need to realize and understand. So again, for legal purposes, we don't treat, we don't diagnose, we don't test for cancer, But we can point you in the direction of tests and science information that can enable you to understand the way your body functions, the way cancer develops, the way your body fights off cancer. Thus that knowledge, that information empowers you to do better and live a longer and healthier life. And that's what I do. That's what the Wellness Way docs do. So help us fight censorship on Facebook, tag a friend, family member. And I know I get worked up about this, but again, when I'm seeing almost on a daily basis lies being told to my community, to this world, to women who don't deserve to be lied to, when I see that, I don't understand how all the oncologists in my community aren't blaring this, making sure that these studies aren't sitting right on their desk, front door, that every single woman before they go in to get a mammogram, like if you wanted to be honest, if you want to do mammograms, okay, do mammograms. But what you should do is every single woman before they get your service of your mammogram, if you want to be an honest, truthful Christian doctor, I'll challenge you. You're not a Christian doctor if you're not telling the truth that mammograms don't extend their life, that mammograms don't detect cancer early, that mammograms are not scientifically proven to extend or increase. There goes my drink. That didn't all over my computer. You're not. Maybe that was God's like karma there. God's like, all right, don't try on being Christians because if they don't know the truth, they can't really, yeah, I understand God. But it's frustrating. I hear he's a good Christian doctor. He means well. But he doesn't like what you're saying, Dr. Dale. Because I'm reading the science that he should have been reading. I'm bringing personal things into this, I know it. But it's just sick. It's frustrating. It's sick. I don't understand how, and I think it honestly makes Christians look bad. When oncologists are claiming to be Christian and wanting to help people and being like, here you go, and saying, and not giving this information. But if you wanted to be truthful, honest, you wanted to do what a Christian is supposed to do, that a true biblical Christian would do, you would say, you know what? Here's the science, here's the research, here's the evidence, here's the U.S. Preventive Service Task Force saying that, you know, this testing that I want you to do, that you're going to pay me to do, you know what? No evidence that it saves lives. I just need you to know that before you pay me to do it. And if they still want to do it, then they can do it. So, anyways, I love you all. Appreciate you all. Again, TWD does not work. I know that I've been seeing that on Facebook here. Because of censorship on Facebook, we got to have you text links to 786-808-1302. Please do like us here on Facebook, like us on YouTube, Instagram. Thank you so much for the shares and likes and tags, that type of thing. Listina says, praying for peace for you, brother. Just stay focused and let God deal with the evil. You're doing great. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, everybody. I wanted something really cool to say. I couldn't think about it. Did you already hit it off?
No, I didn't.
But I appreciate you all. I appreciate all the encouragement, the love, people out there. Just you know, I've seen some great comments and things like that, and I love that. That's why I do that. But again, at times I'm human, so at times I get really kind of worked up that I got some haters in town. But if you didn't have haters, the reality is, you know, what do you truly do? A mentor and friend of mine said, you know, what are you really truly doing in terms of the kingdom of heaven and listening to God and listening and doing the calling and walking out the calling on God has for you, the calling on your heart? You know, he's like, because if you're not doing something that warrants the devil's attention, that warrants evil's attention, that warrants people condemning you, bashing you, calling you a quack, everything like that, if the devil wasn't after you, then really you're not where God wants you to be. So I appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Please share the truth. Don't just like it. It's the only way we save lives. And if you need anything, let us know. Take care.